Welcome to What's the Effort?
What the F?
Hi, everyone. I am not here on my own today. Thank you for joining us, Lizanne. Hello, Melissa. All right, as you can see, I'm sharing the screen today with lots of beautiful people. So I have with me, I don't know how they appear on your screen, so I'm just going to read them according to mine. I have Carolina Allen. I have Dawn Walker. And then come the guys. Derek Barton, he promised he'd leave his baseball bat at home. Justin Timonowski and Nathan Moody. And I decided this time I wasn't going to have one guest. I would have a number who had actually been to the community camp with us, because the idea is to share what happened and some of the takeaways that we each got. So let me see. A very interesting thing that I didn't quite know, and I don't know how many of you guys all know, but we were sent the agenda like starting on day one, and that was for Wednesday. And I decided I would go a little early and get there on Tuesday. But the real day one was on Tuesday, and Weasel was not invited because our camp counselors were invited. So Justin was one of those camp counselors. Could you talk to us about what happened before we even got there?
Good job, Effie. By the way, thank you for having me.
You're welcome.
So, it was a not so secret lunch or dinner that was we were texted about. So I got there just like you. We were on the same flight together. We actually I sat behind you. We occupied the exit rows, and we actually had a wonderful trip on the way there together. So I was super happy about that, and so delighted to actually we all hung out together. So great way to start it, first and foremost. But yeah, we got in early, and then I figured we'd have the travel day, didn't sleep, and we would have a nice rested Wednesday. Let's do some sightseeing then, because knowing how Sub2 and how we all operate, especially in the entrepreneur world, visionaries, everything's crazy. I said, let's do the tourism stuff that one day and then kick off Thursdays. Well, we got our gear on that morning, and just as we were leaving the door, I got a text message from May, and all it said was, shh, there's a secret dinner tonight. And I'll get into the reasons why. It was not so, nothing, wasn't some big conspiracy, but at the end of the day, they wanted to bring folks together who were actually going to be doing some camp counseling. And just that, right? I was a trash man all weekend during that events. I went out to Home Depot and Target and bought things for Jerry Norton's house. We bought the food, or we got all the food together. So yeah, it was a great little kickoff. It was Pace and Jerry and the family just saying, hey, here's a few 10 or 11, 15 people, whatever. These folks are going to be responsible for, like I said, trash. Make sure if anyone's alone, let's grab their hand. Let's bring them in the circle. Let's get them from the sidelines and bring them into some conversations. So there's going to be a lot of people we didn't know. And that was the big concern, was just, but the other side of that coin, when folks we don't know is the one we don't want to talk about, but there's usually one person in the crowd, and I know a few of the masterminds had it, that we want to make sure that everyone is safe, the children is safe, and that if anyone's out of line or anyone's out of character, that we have more eyes than just May and a few other folks, right? So that was it. It was a multifaceted job, but they just brought us in a little early to kick it off. We did a prayer, and that's it.
Well,
Super thankful. Yeah.
Thank you for doing that. I think that takes obviously some thought to realize that, you need at least a little group to make sure that everything is being done, because although we're encouraged to all be givers and participate, if you're talked to about it, then you probably are going to take it a little bit more like, this is my job. I'm going to do this.
Very much. Yeah. And it was the Nortons, obviously, as everyone knows, like they opened up their home to us.
Yeah.
And that was the first time. And I had talked to Jerry and his wife in depth for a while that weekend or that night. And it was, they were uncomfortable. It was getting them out of their comfort zone, and not to mention 300 people. I mean, then the concern was, oh no, the deck won't support 300 people. That was another one. So they like went and ham that night and morning to shore up the deck.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad they did. I wouldn't have wanted to see it fall, but personally, I didn't see that many people all at once out there. Yeah. But I understand what you mean, because at the auction, that was a different story, and we'll get to that in a little bit.
For sure.
About that little platform, it was only 1 foot high, but I thought it was going to fall. But well, that's interesting, and I'm glad you had the chance to get to know him better. Guys, the event officially started with what we call, day one, and that was on Wednesday. So on day one, we were basically told that, you can explore on your own, just hang out, get to know other people. And we were given a little bit of a job that we weren't expecting, which was to post a video reading all the rules. So I don't know how many of you guys would have expected that you got to read rules in a video in order for them to think, all right, you're doing your part. But I saw a lot of videos of the same thing. Oh my God, it was hysterical. Rule number 1, first, thank Pace. Yes, thank you, Pace. Thank you, Pace. Okay, for rule number 2, I know that this is a bonus and was not included in my pay. Like, it was so funny. Anything from that to you like, hi guys, yep, I did great. I just did great. Mine was so fluid. I went off script 10 times and forgot half of it. But we had to thank people. We had to make sure that we voiced that none of our family members are to come to some of the events, which was new. It's very different for us, right? And they even made us say that we won't ask to break the rules. Like sometimes people will go, hey, Pace, can I do this? Like for example, like the mini mastermind, right? We all knew it was going to be mini. We all wanted to be in it. We all knew that there was going to only be a few people chosen. Now, they did make it available during the auction that you could pay for it. So there was like this, wicked fighting for the 1 or 2 spots you could buy. But they didn't want to have everybody going up and saying, hey, Pace, can I get in on that? How about me being the special one? I thought that was wicked. So anyhow, and no coming early and no staying late, all sorts of rules that we should know. But like Justin said, when you're at these people's home and their properties, and they're not used to the craziness of us. We have to be reeled in maybe, or reminded. So yeah, I thought that was interesting that was our homework for day 1. So then, we were up to our own antics. We all did a bunch of, gatherings wherever we could. But there was this one dude that you might have heard of, Sam Singh and Derek Barton. They were rooming together. So Derek, I got you on here. Turn your mic on, buddy. Tell us what the heck happened there.
Yeah, well, unlike you, I did not make a video. So then I don't think I had to follow the rules. I think that's what they were doing. But we got to look back at who made videos to see if they agreed to not drive their own cars to the highway.
I didn't hear that rule, and I got yelled at so much I was crying. Stop, just stop, because that's still a real sore point to me. I said, no, don't do that. Hey, can I kick him off, Graham?
So yes,
singing you, will you please?
The first night we had to get together, and I didn't know about it. I was a last minute invite to Sam's Airbnb, so I got there, and I think the time difference kind of messed with everybody, and so everybody showed up an hour earlier than we thought. and then first it was 5 people, and then it was 8 people, and then I think by the time the Zoom started, there was probably close to 80 to 100 people, I want to say there. And Sam was questioning how so many people got the information. And then somebody reminded him that he put it in the Facebook group. So that's why everybody was there. And for me, who I'm an introvert, some may not believe that, but with all those people there, we couldn't help but start networking. And so I think it was, while it was a watch party for Pace's Zoom, I didn't really watch any of it. I was talking with people. I met a guy by the name of Spencer Cornelia, who has got 500,000 followers on YouTube. And so it was great to have everybody there watching Pace's Zoom and kind of kicking off the event with a small networking event, which kind of broke the ice with a lot of people and opened us up for day one.
I have to agree with that. I have to agree. I think it broke the ice for a lot of people. And we were watching Pace on the Zoom. It was funny because about half were inside and half were outside. And yeah, it was fun. But how long did that thing go for? Because I mean, I actually didn't need to be told to leave on time. I'm kind of old, so I get tired, gotta go home. How long did people stay?
So for those that don't know, Montana is real far north. And me being from Southern California, I didn't realize that, I guess, that far north, away from the equator or whatever causes it, the sun's still out at 10 o'clock at night. So before we knew it, it was 10 o'clock, still light outside. And obviously we didn't want to upset the neighbors with 100 people at the house. So we kind of had to start, sending everybody out of there. So by 10 o'clock, I kind of lost track of time at 10. But I know people were there after 10.
Got it. Well, that's what happens if you announce it. People are going to come, like they say in the baseball movie.
Field of Dreams.
Yep. If you build it, they will come. So then after we all kind of went home on that, we were officially starting with day 2 on Thursday. And we began at the conference room of the Hilton, and they provided lunch. And this was one of the events where they were talking to us, and it was members only, period, members only. So, we had a number of speakers, and I'm going to ask these are not necessarily the order that they were presented in, but I'm going to have, if Nathan, if you're okay, would you talk about Pace stepping on stage and later Vina? So like Pace was at the beginning and then Vina was at the end. Could you do that for us?
Yeah, sure, Effie, and kudos to you for putting this together. I've been watching your podcast grow and you grow, and it's just such an amazing journey to watch. So thanks for having us on here. Yeah, Pace kicked us off, as you said, in that morning session by really sharing his vision of what the event was supposed to be. Obviously, all the obvious things, bringing us together and whatnot. But he described real estate events that we've all gone to as these intense periods of learning in sessions. And then where the real magic happens is a lot of times in the hallway. And so he said, I want to turn that, that notion inside out, the real estate event being, what if the hallway was the main thing? And the sessions were actually, very small or very compact. And so that's what he worked on and got all the other camp counselors to execute throughout the event. Is that Thursday morning, like you said, Effie, we had a number of speakers that kind of did a rapid fire, the best of the best, thinking that they've been bringing to their individual communities and their coaches in their own right, as well as just massive execution in their specialties. So just distilling all those into more compact teachings, I think, than say compared to the longer Zooms that Pace would do otherwise, or in the other coaching programs. And he mentioned that the cornerstone of every endeavor is really friendship, and that's where we have to start. Really bring that to the forefront and set the tone that friendship, building allegiances with each other, is the real point of coming together. So that's kind of what I remembered. He told us to really think of yourself as a conduit to someone else's need, not just come there thinking about your own needs, which all that is, of course, consistent with what Pace always says and what we all hopefully live. But really, I loved how he set the stage, because just as we do in a real estate deal, what you do in the beginning, sets the expectations. Same with a JV agreement or whatever. It just brings us all on the same page. And so I really like that, of him having us imagine ourselves as a conduit through which someone else's need is going to be met. That's kind of what I remember. It's been a few days, but it was super impactful.
Yeah. Yeah, I have to agree. Anyone want to add anything on that? I think that you covered it pretty well, but if anybody says like, I got something. Okay. All right. So the order was a little different. I think Cody spoke next, did he? Yeah. Okay. I'll come back to you then, Nathan. Dawn, do you mind talking to us about Cody? What did you get out of that? And you know what, guys, I'm sorry. I have pictures, but I tried to minimize them because I thought I was going to get more from you guys. It's okay. I only have a few pictures, and I didn't have one of Pace by himself. Or I have it. Never mind. It's my fault. I should put them up there anyhow. Tell us what you thought, Dawn, about Cody's talk.
I really loved Cody's talk, but Effie, I want to say thank you for having us all up here. This is awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
With Cody, he thinks at such a high level. He's just amazing when he does get on stage. He doesn't think that he does, but I'm blown away every time I hear him speak. And I was talking with Justin about this before we left, and he was asking me what my takeaways were. And there's some things that you're not ready to hear when you hear it the first time. And so with Cody, I really gravitated towards everything that he said, because everything he was talking about as far as your team and how to evolve your team over time based on the revenue you have coming in, and how to maximize everyone's abilities and experience and knowledge, and how you can be a better leader for them, that hit home for me. He was talking about when you are building a team and you're putting people in the right places, what happens when you have to spend a lot of time training those people, and a lot of effort and a lot of resources go into that. And there's frustration there, because sometimes in certain positions, it seems like it's a revolving door. And as that leader for your team, you feel like you're doing something wrong, right? Because it seems like some avenues they're leaving more often than what we're expecting them to. And so he kind of put me at ease there that happens, but it doesn't mean you shouldn't evaluate it and shouldn't think of what you can do better or how you can better help your team. Because when your team isn't evolving and growing themselves personally and in business, then they may not be the best fit for you. They may not be the best fit for your culture. And so providing those resources to them and allowing them to have those opportunities is huge. Giving them books, sending them to places to get that education, to want to better themselves in their position is amazing. It's something that's absolutely needed. The one thing that really stuck with me when he was talking about it was, everyone's concerned about the time and the effort and the resources you spend trying to elevate your team, which will ultimately elevate your business, but they just leave. And then he finished that with, well, what happens if you don't do those things and they stay in your business? That's only going to keep you stagnant. It's not going to help you grow. And so I think that was something that really hit home, because no one finished that part of the conversation for me. I was only stuck on that first half of, I must be doing something wrong or not enough for my team. And so, because of that, I'm not doing something right. But it's really, I just need to get better and evolve myself and get better as a leader, while realizing that in those positions, there's going to be some revolving doors happening. But if you can plan it correctly and start training people so that you don't lose revenue as you go through that, then you're going to be in a good spot. So I think that was one of the biggest things that I took away with Cody's speech.
Yeah, that was very powerful. And I know that Justin mentions revenue, like you did, revenue versus the growth. That point that he made, it was very good. I also thought that it was personally, I remember when Cody said that when you hire people, you let them know that you're hiring them for the future and that they have to get uncomfortable because that's what it takes to grow. And if they're comfortable and they are looking for a place to just be comfortable, it won't really work out by telling them that way of looking at things, So I thought that was interesting to kind of let them know that you may be good now, but I don't know whether you'll be good for the next step. It's up to you. Like, here are the books to read. Here are the steps to take. Sweat it out. Like, get uncomfortable. So yeah, his was really powerful. Anyone else want to add in anything about Cody?
I was going to say, I mean, everyone I spoke with loved Cody's. And I think Cody's, those who have been to the mastermind know that every time Cody gets on there, his stuff is really powerful because he has the meat and potatoes. Pace gets us pumped up. Pace gives us all the great stories. He gives us, things that we can relate to. But at the end of the day, the integrator aspect is something that everybody usually is looking for. That piece is, and it's the juice. So I know that Katie, my wife, who went, her favorite part was Cody, and countless others that I've spoken with. And yes, the revenue versus the growth. And I know the quote, I'm going to probably butcher it, but it's, your revenue will never outgrow your growth, or somewhere along those lines. And I know someone can step up and do a better job, but, or your growth won't.
Your revenue won't outgrow your comfort, I think is what it was.
Yeah. So
yeah, that if you're comfortable, that's it. Your revenue isn't going to increase anymore.
And I have the photo of it with the graph he made for us and everything. And I don't even know if I've ever seen that from him, but I've seen a lot of the same things that he says, but I got some takeaways too. And like Don said, you have to be ready to hear some of these things. We've heard it countless times, some of us, but if you're not ready to hear it, it doesn't apply sometimes.
Yeah.
So, and that was one little takeaway last night with Don that I actually loved that we talked about.
Good. All right. And I think when were you, wait, sorry guys. It's funny when I think, okay, what do I want to say next? And I'm umming and hawing. I want to know, Justin, when did you guys get pulled up? Because guys, there weren't many of us up there, meaning they were all the people who are leaders in their fields and have made gazillion dollars and things like that. But you and Suzanne Sharkey got pulled up, and you did a great job when you talked about leaders. It was in the morning, wasn't it, before our lunch?
I had walked in, and first thing, I went through the double doors, and Pace looked right at me. He goes, "You're up." And actually, I should set the tone prior. The night before, we were at that camp counselor, meeting, we'll call it. It was never camp counselor. Suzanne and I made that name. We talked about it the night before, and we were like, "Oh, we're camp counselors." And we had told Pace that, and he's like, "Why didn't I think of that?" But then it stuck, which is cool. And I think it should have, that name should have been out way earlier. But he told everyone in the group, "I'm going to pull up 2 people, or I'm going to pick 2 people to speak tomorrow. I'm not going to tell you who they are until tomorrow." So everyone was freaking out a little bit, but you never think it's going to be you, right? And you don't know what he's thinking ever. And as soon as I walked in, he looked at me and goes, "You're speaking." And I'm like, "Okay, on what? What would you like me to speak about?" And he gave us about the community. So I didn't have anything planned. I think the best things happen when it's not planned. But personally, I think I could have done a lot better. But it's also tough sharing a stage, a microphone for the first time with someone, and personally, you have 20 minutes to figure it out, half hour to figure it out, and you don't even know how it's going to go. So I'm grateful that it happened, but yeah, I think we could have done a lot better job if we had a little bit more time to have an outline.
Oh, I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you agree with that? that they could have, I mean, to me, I don't know. I thought it was awesome.
Yeah, I thought you crushed it.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
You had an outline in the back on the whiteboard. Patience, expectations, monetize. I forgot the last point, but I remember that big bad. I have a picture of it somewhere. And then you practiced what you preached, which was being vulnerable and sharing the highlights and the lowlights. So I love that you were kind of walking out some of the highlights of what Sub2 New England is doing. And I learned from everything you said.
I appreciate it.
I agree. I mean, just hearing what you guys are doing in your community up there blew me away. I wish more of the communities in other areas was doing the same thing that you guys were, because it makes complete sense. And I think it's only going to help all of us get better, hold each other accountable to make our meetups better, make our relationships better. So I was like writing notes, and I had my voice memo on, just recording the whole thing, because it was great. It was something that we all need to put into practice, right?
Mm-hmm.
Those are things that we can definitely learn from. So I appreciated that 100%. And I think you guys crushed it.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I loved it. I also loved it. It was amazing. So I'm the leader out here in Oregon, and I am always trying to improve and do things better. Justin, you're amazing, but your partner, Suzanne, I resonated with her so much because I'm an introvert, even though I'm chatting up a storm right now. But like everything she was saying, I'm like, it's like she's reading my mind. There are days that we want to throw in the towel, but it's because we're not energized. Like our energy is drained. We
Mhm.
need to like do some self-care and then come back, right? We love our community. We always want to be go-givers and give back, but sometimes you got to step back and take care of you. So that was, yeah, I loved everything she said. She's like my new superhero.
Yeah. I mean, I can say that the best thing for us was her coming out. This was her first time ever out.
Oh, coming
And I
out.
don't-
Guys,
Wow.
talk about
I know.
coming out. Because they were sitting right behind me. And of course, I'm just turning around like stewardesses. Oh, sit down, sit down. I'm like, bring it on. Anyhow, I think I gave quite a bit of time to Suzanne, because I thought, no, don't talk like that. Don't think like that. Because I thought she needed help to be supported, and that she was not, she wasn't into herself yet. Was I wrong?
She came out swinging, and that you hear those two things.
I
The
was like,
same
what the hell?
person
Same
you
person.
hear was like, yeah, I don't know if I can do it. I don't know if I can do it. Yeah, I'm an introvert. And then she comes out and Casey Anthony and telling this and ripping us all. She was, I know
I
this
was in
woman.
shock. I was in shock. I was like,
She flips a switch, is what I was calling it.
doesn't sound the same, doesn't act the same. This person is not, she was insecure in the plan.
Yeah, she flips a
It was
switch.
inspiring.
Very,
But,
very.
yeah.
That was really very, very cool. I love that. Anyhow, so it was nice to see some students up there, and it's a cool thing to say the least. So Nathan, I need you to tell me if you have to run, please. Okay.
No, I cleared my schedule successfully, FM.
Okay, great. Because I'm going to go to Carolina next, if I may, and ask her to talk about Jerry Norton.
Amazing. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Effie, for having me, by the way. This is so much fun. Yeah, for me, Jerry Norton honestly was like the highlight. I was like so excited when I got selected to come on board, because that was he is someone that I really look up to. So I started my journey in real estate 2019, and I struggled. I was in a mentorship. They did not teach us how to do any sales and negotiations. I was struggling, and I've never done any sales before in my life before entering this world. So one day I remember my husband Steven showed me a YouTube, Jerry Norton, and I started watching how he talked to homeowners, and I'm like, this is what I need to copy and do myself. So he, I didn't join his mentorship, but just watching him on YouTube with his free stuff is how I learned to get my first deal. So I made sure to thank him at the thing this weekend, and yeah, it was really, really awesome to meet him. So a few other things that can you all hear me? Everyone kind of,
Yep, we can
okay.
hear
Like, it's really quiet. Okay. So a few other things that
Girl, we're hanging on every word.
I love it. I love it. So a few things that I that clicked with me when he was talking and oh my gosh, my child is in the background on a live podcast. This is awesome. So sorry. Um, it is summer in the Allen household. Holy cow. Anyway, a few things that resonated with me when he was speaking was about risk tolerance and knowing, how to manage it. And then he also talked about, how we level up, right? So if we're in a business where we're forever uncomfortable, but if you get to the point that you are comfortable, that means it's time for you to start leveling up. So for me, that was good because I feel like I'm forever uncomfortable. So I must be in the right level right now. So
Good for you.
so that is good. And then, just remembering that there really isn't any growth if you just remain in that comfort level. You have to be uncomfortable to keep moving forward. What else he also said something about like because I am kind of a worrywart. I don't know if it's the mom in me, but I do worry quite a bit and overthink things. But he said something about don't spend 5 minutes on something that doesn't really mean anything in like 5 years. So that was another thing. I'm like, I got to remember that little piece.
Yeah, that was a little gem for sure, for sure. And now I'm going to go to Nathan. Would you be kind enough to talk to us about Vina Jetty?
Yeah, absolutely. And she was the one providing my invite to the event. So continue every opportunity I can. Reflection of gratitude on that invite and all that she's doing for the community. So, as most she runs Mastering Multifamily with Vina Jetty, and it's a learning group based in Facebook, but also on a platform, Teachable. And so, a lot of the things that she said there is, again, summaries, as we said, that would be of bigger teaching and curriculum on her Teachable platform. But in classic Vina methodology, what she does is kind of layer the learning. So I love how she helps us not just gain information, but she teaches us how to think about a subject, a topic. So you gain facts, but you also gain sort of the scaffolding onto which those facts need to be placed in order to put them into action. So that's what I always loved about when she gets on stage. So she started with the basics. Just the question was, and it's one that answers itself, but to a crowd like this, who wants to raise capital? And the whole room raised their hand, and lots of it. And so she did mention fairly early on that she's in a deal right now that after it closes will bring her past the $1 billion transaction mark. So this for her, this year and this particular month, next month actually for closing, is a real milestone for her. And she was careful to say, well, that sounds daunting to someone just starting, but so how do you get started? And it's obviously through understanding some of the basics. So she began layering those, defining even what a security is, so that if you're out raising capital, you know whether or not you're selling a security, and mentioning that that the easiest way to get into a real estate investment deal is to get into it with someone else. And the reason that that's important is because you really only learn at that next level when you're doing something. If you're on the sidelines, you can pick up knowledge, but the learning is a bit different. And I see her always going back to the medical community for an analogy. She talks about, see one, do one, teach one. And her husband is a doctor, so she's very much embedded in that line of thinking. And that led into the next point where she knows very well she calls it an investor avatar. It's basically an investor profile. Each of us in our sphere will tend to interact with a certain cohort or demographic. Again, she, because of her husband, interacts very frequently with the medical community. And so she has found her way onto stages, and this is what she was telling us to do. Recommendation is to pay to get into rooms, but not just real estate rooms. Find ways to get into rooms where there's investors, but you can speak with a degree of authority in what she calls that investor avatar. And so she can speak about how doctors have a certain way of thinking and mitigating risk and how that relates to real estate and things like that. So she always, as Pace does say, lead with value when you're talking to an investor like her. She really pays attention to whether or not you have looked at her buy box. On her fund, vivefunds.com, there's all kinds of information about which market she's in, and when someone comes to her with a property or a project that they think she might be interested in, she's really listening to are they bringing and leading with value by showing that they have done a little bit of homework about what kinds of things she wants to be involved in. So she explained how she was on her flight to the camp, and it just reminds us that there's three kinds of people in her mind. There's either an investor, a potential investor, or someone who knows someone who's an investor. And every time she gets, in a conversation with someone, be it on the plane, at a dinner, or whatever, those are the three bins or tiers that she thinks in. You're either an investor or you know someone who is. And then the final thing that she mentioned was how to interact with investors, to really go beyond just the transactional, thank you for investing, here's your returns, your K1s, but help them see that their money, their hard-earned funds are on a journey, and help them see where that journey is going in the property. And at the end of it, something special she does is, again, to build allegiance with the investors, is rather than a thank you gift of some kind that says, hey, look what we've done together, here's a thank you gift, thank you for investing. What she does is gives everyone an opportunity, a couple of choices, to together vote on a charity that collectively all the investors through a majority vote decide to make a donation. And so it's a celebratory donation that does so many things. It first of all, again, brings consensus on a final decision, and then it celebrates through giving, which just kind of takes us right back to Pace's mindset. Is you live to give. That's kind of the ending that she gave it. So she really gave a lot of information that is even beyond that, a bit technical about how much beyond a hard raise you should do for a soft commitment in terms of investing, and lots of substantive material. But I really liked how she ended it on aligning her investors, not just on the financial goal that they had, but on something that was a bit beyond even themselves. I thought that was super special.
Right. I have to agree with that. That was genius. Instead of sending them the little gift and the chocolates or the fruit basket, to send them a list. Which nonprofit would you like us to, send money to in your name? Because that gives them more of a return on their money. And I'm like, is that smart or what? Because they're not going to get, the chocolates, the pears or whatever, they're going to be gone. It's not a big deal. But when they think, oh, I actually affected, saving a dog or, whatever it is that they choose, and they get to vote on it. I thought that was really smart indeed. Yep. And, we have to keep in mind a little bit, like in this particular view that people are seeing right now, I actually didn't do this on purpose at all, but we're half guys and half women. But we all know that when we look at those stages of the, people who are close to billionaires, that sort of thing, there are very few women. So I really applaud the fact that she is, right up there and has done so much as a woman, because we need more women. So she's leading the way. So that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool indeed. All right, so next we're going to go, we had a working lunch, guys. So they didn't just feed us and say it's break time. They expected us to network. They expected us to keep going and, build on what we had and talk about our takeaways, all sorts of things. It wasn't just a matter of chilling for a little bit. So that was good. And the food was good, for sure. And then Abraham Gray got up, and I love Abraham. Abraham was I love them all, but Abraham was the one that had invited me, and I'm grateful to him for many, many, many things. And he was speaking about his deal maker weekends. Like, Abraham buys a lot of houses, but he's known for having so many businesses. So he was talking about that. And one of the things that I have heard him speak of before, and I keep thinking it's so funny, but it's also very effective, is that when he reaches out to the sellers that he's hoping to do business with, he does it in really creative, unusual ways. So the way he approached, I'm not going to steal the story from him because I think I couldn't do it justice. But, he doesn't just send out normal marketing material. He really puts thought into it, and it kind of gives them a little like, what the heck? And that gets their attention. So I thought that was pretty cool. And then I also saw that at the auction, who should be, throwing up the money and trying to get one of the deal maker weekends, but my friend Derek Barton. So I'm like, yay, because I'm going to go to the next one. And he got it. He just kept pitching that money up until he won that particular auction item. So I'm going to ask Derek why and what you're up to. Tell me about what you thought about Abraham. How did he affect you? Besides emptying your pockets.
Yeah, no, exactly. Abraham, so ever since the first deal maker weekend, I've been debating on going and debating. But I didn't want to chase any shiny objects. But where I really resonate with Abraham is that depending on where you're at in your journey, like some things are more important than others. And for me, with his business stuff, it's about the cash flow, right? You're buying into a business that's been cash flowing. You had your buy box, and I believe they like to see 10 years of business. So if you're profitable for 10 years and it's been mismanaged, then all it takes is somebody to know what they're doing in marketing, and you can 2x, 3x, whatever they do with their businesses, and growing them. And that has just really stuck out to me the whole time. And so when the opportunity rose to how we got to that point of bidding on this auction item was, prior to that, people were donating to a wonderful cause to give towards ending human trafficking, child trafficking. And as a parent, that's something that strikes hard, especially being here in Arizona. It's really bad here at the trafficking, and so it just made sense for me. It was everything was lining up. It was a good cause. They were offering something that I've been interested in for a while, and I feel compelled to give to the cause, and two, obviously, it was something that I have been wanting to do, so it made sense. But what happened after that, I know you'll get into it, was the exciting part of the bidding and people outbidding each other for all the different prizes. But I'll let you get into that.
Okay, we're going according to the timeline, guys. We'll also add, though, Derek, in case you don't know it, that I think, Nathan, you're in are you in Protege? Yeah. So are you going to go to the next deal maker?
Yeah, I'm scheduled to.
Yep. So that makes 50% of us, and maybe some of these folks might also come. But yeah, buying businesses is a lot, easier than people think. And Abraham makes it look like child's play. He's so good at it. Anyhow, so then that's what happened in the morning, guys. There was a lot. There was an awful lot that happened. And then they kind of let us go for a little while so we could get changed and go up to Jerry Norton's lake house. So we went up and hung out there at his lake house and, just chilled. There was no one really, it wasn't any kind of a presentation. It was simply that we were hanging out. And if you weren't there, you should see a little bit of the place. It was pretty cool. All right. Can you see the screen?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So his home is pretty impressive. I have no idea what it's worth, but this is just the land down to the lake. And there were people everywhere. There were people out by the food trucks. There were people down by the shore, out in the boats. They had a bunch of boats going around. And in the house, Derek, you want to talk about this a little bit?
It was a little
experience. Just share what was your experience at Jerry's lake house.
Well, obviously this was the first thing, right? You walk outside and you see this wonderful view, and that picture doesn't do it justice, but you look up and there's a mountain in front of you and just pine trees everywhere. And somebody that loves to be in nature, it was living in the desert and then getting to escape into the vast forest of pine trees was really incredible. But at that event at his house, it was a chance to kind of have an unstructured networking event where it was just like, hey, you go find somebody that you don't know and have a conversation. And for me, it was a little bit weird because I'm a little bit of an introvert. Carolina feels me. But obviously I talked to Justin a little bit. He helped me out. I spoke with his wife, and you see some familiar faces, and it gives you a little bit more confidence. But just being in the surrounding of those nature just gives you a different feeling, and then around all the people, like-minded people, just really just put you in a different mindset. And then once you get over yourself, then you start, talking to other people and kind of doing what you're supposed to be doing at an event like that. So I enjoyed it thoroughly, and hope to get to go back again.
Yeah, it was very nice. I'm seeing Lance is on in the chat. I think Lance was one of the people who I took a picture of in the water. Am I right, Lance? Did you go in the water? It was kind of funny. There were a number of people that went in.
Did anyone see the neighbors that came over?
No.
What's going on? I saw one of them, and he goes, "Are you the owner?" I said, "No, but I know the owner." And yeah, it was Jerry had told us the night before that, about all the land. Like, so Pace made an offer on the house across the lake from here. We can barely see it. And then they looked at some land down to the left of this photo. There was a package of houses, and they looked at another one that I think it was 20 acres.
Nice.
But he also went into the history of the neighbors and the small houses that were next door and how they're generational. And like most lakes anywhere in this country, if not world, I would say, it's generational. And it's so the same thing. And he was telling us how it's a, battle. The seniors had passed away, the parents had passed away, and then the sons, the siblings take it over. And that, one wants to sell, one can't take it, one wants to cash in, one wants to stay. And there they were in front of me, the family. And it was one of the nephews who was up, or the sons. And then his father, then his father's uncle, the uncle came through, the brother. And I could see, he's like, "Oh, there's my uncle." So I'm going, "Oh boy, which way is this going?" So I said, "Is everything okay though?" And he said, "Oh yeah, no, it's good. We're not complaining. We just didn't know about it. Like, we're just wondering why there's 300 people in food trucks." So the neighbors didn't know.
That's funny. I guess he didn't feel obliged to tell them. But yeah, speaking of the taco trucks and such, one of the few times I decided it wouldn't be appropriate to crash the line, and Derek got some of the last tacos, and I did not.
The Korean barbecue, maybe?
No, they were out of everything. And so I ended up, it was funny. I mean, obviously we're a group that when we get in fresh air, we like eating.
Did y'all catch the boat story he told about the trees when they first bought that property? So Jerry was taking us around on the boats, and he was like pointing out everything around the lake and everything. And he said when they first moved in, he loved looking at the lake. And so he wanted to clear out some of the trees that were in front of his property. And so he started doing that, and all the neighbors were like, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" And he goes, "I'm cutting down the trees." And they go, "Why? They're so beautiful." He goes, "Yeah, but so is the lake." And he goes, "You don't need to cut those down." And he goes, "Yeah, I do. I want to see the lake." So he just cut them down. He goes, "I thought that was logical." Like, it was so funny when he was talking about it. I was like, that would be something that he would do. But he's got such a beautiful house that's like on an A-frame, and it's all windows. So I'm with him. I would have cut down the ones in front so I could see the lake and obviously get more sunlight, but still, that
Yeah.
was hilarious.
That's a no-no in most lake communities, but that's private. So that's what they said. He goes, well, it's private, and I can sort of do. That's the one thing they care about around there.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. I hear you. I hear you. Okay, so then we got to day 3, right? We were in day 3, and we had the morning that was off. We could do whatever we want. And, I said, hey, Carolina, you want to talk about this? She goes, how exciting is it that I was hanging out just in my place and on the bed? I can't even remember what I was doing. And I wasn't drinking. Oh, yes, actually, I do remember. You know what? Hey, you know the auctioneer? Somehow we stumbled on with her. She's a hoot, and she's got so many stories. It was really funny. But we actually stood. There were about, what was it, 4 or 5 of us stood at a corner with our cell phones, looking for a freaking 40 minutes to see where we're going to have lunch, to finally cross the street to go into a deli and sandwich place, which was pretty good, but it was just too stupid. It was too stupid. So there were some dumbass things like
Well,
that.
I was there with you hanging out that day. I thought you meant Friday because we kind of had like a little Friday morning of like free time.
Well, wasn't that Friday? Was that Saturday? Was it
No,
Sunday?
Saturday. Wait, now I'm confused. Oh my
It
gosh.
was the
No.
day. It was the day of the dinner. It was like that morning before the dinner.
Okay, maybe it was
Oh,
that.
I got it mixed up on here. Sorry,
Or
guys.
maybe I'm mixed up because I just flew in like this morning, so I apologize.
So that was the day for the construction walkthrough.
Yes, the construction
Oh,
walkthrough.
okay.
That
Yeah.
was very interesting.
We toured. Oh, I'll add something to that too, though. We did tour a self-storage facility.
Oh,
We
yeah,
did,
someone
yeah.
went to that. And I thought
Yes.
to myself, you know what I said? I said, well, what happened? And they're like, it's just a storage facility. I said, that's it? I think it would have, whether they would have been clowns or strippers, I don't know. But I would have had somebody hiding in one of those things. And, they say, oh, take a look at the storage space inside. And they just jump out, scare the poop out of you. Make it memorable, because I want storage units, but how boring.
There's a lot. There seems like there's a lot in Montana. And also, the gentleman who was there, he did a fantastic job, the agent or the broker, because I think it was for his family. And I didn't get the whole story, but I mean, he genuinely thought there were 2 people coming. And again, Pace being Pace and the whole gang showed up with a convoy, and there was 25. So the kid was nervous. The drones were flying. The cameras were out. We had Abraham's cameraman there. We had Pace's cameraman there. So it was pretty interesting. But it was a quick one. The numbers weren't that great.
Yeah, that's the
And
other thing they said, and it wasn't a really good deal. I was
yeah,
like, so they didn't have any entertainment? I mean, I would have made something out of it so that people would have said, oh, you should have gone. But
You,
that's
you,
interesting.
you know what's interesting is that I actually thought it was kind of cool. I'd never been on a walkthrough like that. So for me, it was really interesting to see that in the process. And then watching Jerry and Vina and Pace all kind of talk about it back and forth and like, no, but this is how you do that. No, this is how you do it. And Pace, of course, is being like, I will fight you on this. Like, I will show you how to do this.
yeah.
So, but going through, because Jerry does a great job, just like Pace does, of telling a story, but he does a really good job of slowing things down in underwriting. And I had some like aha moments. I was like, why didn't anyone else explain it like that? That was so simple. And not that Pace doesn't, but when Jerry just mentioned it, it was like the only time I had heard it put that way. And I was like, oh, this is amazing. So for me, I got a lot out of that. I didn't know anything else they were talking about or if it was a good deal or not, but that piece and watching how it unfolded was amazing.
Yeah, Don, it was when he went, that was a good point. That's a huge point, and I think that's a great takeaway for anyone who is listening. But Jerry did say, and Katie mentioned it too. He went, all right, does everyone understand what this means? It is, 400,000. I'm making these numbers up. 400,000. It's, a 10-year term, X amount of interest rate, but it's amortized over 20 years. So the way it's spoken is in abbreviations. And then he went through it on camera, slowed it down. And that was I like that part of what Jerry did. So great. I love that you mentioned that.
Good. So then they piled us on buses. The buses were very good, weren't they? I mean, they were good buses, but they were also a good way of controlling so many people. And off we went to Bob Norton's spec house. You know, it's interesting to see that all the brothers are doing well. I think that's pretty cool. And I would have assumed, or I did assume, that Jerry Norton was the big, honcho. But they actually, it wasn't the case, right? I mean, that his older brother, I think, started first, so I think that was kind of cool. So who would like to talk about wait a minute, why can't I do this? Hey, Graham, are you fighting with me? How do I'd like to bring a picture of the spec home we went to, and all options I have are, there. Okay, there we go. Thanks. I appreciate that. Thank you, Graham, very much. So they took us and we went to this home, and it was, who would like to talk about it, please? And
I didn't go.
I didn't go either.
who didn't go?
I drove. We were driving by our own deal.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, I think it would help keep me straight then, guys. Am I correct, Carolina and Derek and Nathan? Nathan, you weren't there either, right? Or were you there?
No, I wasn't there.
Okay. Wasn't it on 40 acres?
Yeah, 40 acres, 6.5.
Yeah. You're not supposed to say that because it's a spec house. Remember, he said their numbers are secrets. But anyhow, yeah, it was on a very big piece of land. And as you looked around, you really saw like hills and mountains all the way around. It was very picturesque, 360 views of beautiful, beautiful stuff. And then this was the house. How many square feet was it? Do you remember, Carolina or Derek?
I have it just went on forever. No, I don't remember.
8,000 square feet.
How many?
8,000.
Okay. Personally, I thought it was smaller than I expected it to be inside.
That's because there was 200,000 people inside.
Yes, that's true. But I've been in some very big houses, and what was pointed out to us by Bob is that they look to see where they can cut to save money. So one place they can cut is halls. So the hallways are almost non-existent. And that's what I meant with, you go into bigger, I'm used to whenever I see big houses having lots of foyers and lots of hall after hall after hall. And they realize like nobody lives in the halls. So they minimize that, and they end up being able to save a fair amount and make it more compact. Because apparently more people don't want to have to travel as far either. It is a lot of miles for sure. But that was interesting. And the showers, oh yeah. How many did any of your people, when you were walking around, try to see how many people can fit in those showers?
I think Vina said that they got like 33 people in there. Something like that.
Yeah, you knew that was kind of kinky, man. It was not just like, hey, take a shower. It was like too inviting for it was like, okay, the house looks normal, but when you get to the showers, you got some stuff going on there. No way would one or two people be in that shower. Anyways, and multiple showers, and all of them big. None were small. That was very interesting. What did you guys think was most interesting, Carolina, of that house? What did you find most interesting?
I'm trying to remember now. I thought it was interesting that they were bringing all their crew from out of town. They weren't using the locals because that was a way to stay on budget.
Right. And that they couldn't get the people that they bring up who think they're making great money to stay during the winter. They're like, right. No way, man.
And he talked about the foundation too. Remember that?
Yeah.
Didn't he lay it like during the winter, which was a big no-no?
Right. They really needed to speed up the process because there's a buying period and it's now. So they have it kind of finished enough to start marketing it, but they wanted it as finished as possible. And there's so much you can't do in the winter, like laying, cement. I thought that was, yeah. So it was also interesting how they shipped the people up. Made me think about, well, where did they stay? It was interesting. Anything else, Derek, that you can think of on that house? It was a nice house.
Nothing. I have no clue what they're doing.
Well, there's one comment that I remember Jerry talking about the property that struck me, and that was this notion that there's kind of two ways to make money, and they can both be simultaneous, and that's either on volume or on margin. And so if you're going to do a lot of small builds, then it's got to be volume because your margin's not going to be there. And this is kind of the opposite play, is what I remember him explaining, is in these higher end builds, the demographic you're selling to enables you to just have higher margin. And so the permitting is kind of the same, I'm guessing. All of the steps, the recipe is very similar to what you need to do on a smaller home, except you get that larger margin. So I felt I grew from that little commentary, even though, I wasn't in the home.
Agree.
Yeah, and it is. It's a little bit like the pad split versus, or let's say, Airbnb renting a couch versus the luxury. You got to rent a lot of couches to be able to make anywhere near what you do on a luxury. So the pad split tends to go on the lower end, and if you're going to do co-living, if you do it at the higher end, you need less. So yeah, but it's a different market for sure. So that was interesting.
Yeah, I also thought it was interesting at this home, they're projecting that the buyer's this is gonna be like their second or third vacation home. It's not gonna be a primary home for them.
Right. Yeah, because they don't want to be there in the winter. I don't know why they don't have some kind of ski stuff, because people like going skiing. But I didn't. Anytime I thought, oh, there's a cut, like maybe they're trying to make a ski resort there. It was always electrical lines. There was nothing for skiing. I was like, they're not doing that here.
There's a lot of trees, Effie.
I know.
A lot of trees on that mountain.
I know, but when you go to like Mammoth Lakes, or if you go to a lot of the high-end ski resorts, they have a lot of trees. They need massive land. But I also think that I looked it up. Their mountains aren't that as high as some of the ones that I'm used to. So they're mountains, but they're not super high. So then we got to the main event. We got to the dinner and the auction and the keynote speaker, Tim Ballard. So, Justin, would you be a dear and talk to us about Henry Washington, who I actually went up to and said to him, I'm so sorry, I don't know a whole lot about you, but I know that George Washington is a good name. And he's like, it might be, but it's not my name. And I was like, what's your name? And he said, Henry Washington. I said, oh, that's almost as good.
Yeah, his middle name.
I was like, oh boy, I blew it. I'm supposed to know this guy. He's supposed to be a bigwig. That was very
well. I love that you'd walk up to somebody and say, like, I don't know a lot about you, enlighten me, because I love that, and I don't think it's something I would do.
Maybe I should have got their name first, though.
I know. It happens.
That's funny.
So yeah, Henry's. I listened. It was good seeing him, and I actually wanted to buy his little. I was getting a nudge in the back. No one knows, but I was getting nudged in the back on what I was allowed to do, and I should have taken the initiative and did some more. But yeah, because he was offering what he's in. Is it Arkansas or Alabama? Arkansas, I think. And he's done about 70 units. He's with Bigger Pockets, guys. So Bigger Pockets, he does great. I think he's on the take. Is it? I've listened to plenty of his.
I know he's on Bigger Pockets a fair amount. I've
with
seen
Jamil too, I think.
episodes, but I hadn't caught him before.
Yeah, and so it's so funny that the voice that I'm used to listening once in a while when I put on Bigger Pockets podcast when I'm driving and whatnot is the same man standing there. I couldn't correlate the two. But
hey,
yeah,
that was like me when I was on the airplane and I heard your voice, and I was like, "Dang, that sounds just like Justin." Turn around,
right behind you.
I was like,
and then I said,
at
the same time, I go, "That looks like Effie from behind."
Yeah, he knows my behind.
Yes, we were keeping a PG.
Really?
PG though, folks. So he's 70 units in 4 years, I think is what I ended up listening or hearing from him. Bigger Pockets, obviously, so his platform is huge. So anytime you're on that, of course, his growth has probably been tremendous. And yeah, Arkansas market. And he did elaborate on his buy box, but also his approach. So I actually gravitated towards it because I'm a direct mail person too. Although I do all the marketing channels, I nerd out on direct mail. Same with Abraham Gray, who does unique direct marketing, mail marketing. So I like that. And what else did he say? The buy box. Then he went into, I wrote a quick note, and it was his approach is different on, he wants that when he reaches out to mom and pop operators, he says like, hey, want to go for coffee? I'm so curious to, learn how you got here and what your approach was and whatnot. So he's not saying, hey, I just want to buy your property. It's a different approach. And I've heard that. And obviously it's worked for him. So.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
I got curious by the end and embarrassed that I didn't know the guy's name.
Oh, it's all good.
That was funny.
Everyone knows your name though.
Ah.
How funny is that?
Well, you know what? At one point, Jerry says to me, I finally introduced myself because I had to thank him. I hadn't introduced him. I hadn't thanked him the first day. And I said, thank you so much, this, that. And he looks at me. I said, my name is Effie. And he goes, yeah, what do you do? I said, well, I'm still at the beginning. I'm just getting going. And he's like, yeah, but what are you known for? I said, I don't know. He goes, I know your name, but I don't know what you're known for. And I said, I don't know what the F. He goes, no, not the podcast. There's something else I know about you. And I thought, what has someone said to him? I had no
You always have the dopest glasses. How's that?
Oh, I don't know, but it's had me very curious. I wondered like, what the heck I don't know, what would he have heard? So.
Well, that's actually, if you think about it, that's a little takeaway that you could work on, but your name is there. But if someone as big as Jerry notices you, so maybe you just tweak your branding a little bit or what you want. So that's actually a really good compliment, I think, how you could take a positive.
It's a kind of like backhanded. Yeah. In a way. I
learn from the mistakes. I love mistakes and the negatives. And that's, I think, is a really great one.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe I should contact them and say, I need to be known for something. So will you come on my podcast? I'm sorry. Just kidding. If you're watching this, which I thought you would be, say yes.
Confidence, bro. Confidence.
Yeah. Anyhow, I'm going to talk about Spencer because Spencer is the person that, Derek talked about a little bit and said that he had, met him at that watch party. So I met him standing next to Derek, and Derek is, hey, this is my buddy Spencer. And I'm like, oh, hi, Spencer. He goes, yeah, Spencer knew me from way back yonder, but I don't think I knew him or something like that. And then he says to me, and he's a YouTuber, and he's got 500,000 followers. And I was like, you do? And he goes, yeah. I said, oh, will you be on my podcast? Without knowing my mouth even opened. And he said, yes. I said, I'm going to need some help. It's not very good. And he goes, I can do that. And then he said, what do you use for streaming? I said, proudly, like I don't use Zoom, I use Yardstream. And he goes, yeah, you need help. Which I thought was funny because I don't know what he's going to suggest, but he's going to come on. And, I have looked him up, and he does investigative work. So he tries to find people that are scamming in different areas and then, shed the light on them. And I said, oh, a snake finder. I'm going to love this guy, because I don't like that there is even one person in Sub2 that's a snake, but, if we could have a snake finder, I might be paying for his membership into Sub2. Like, just let him loose. Did you see anything? Anything at all? Anyhow, he was very, very kind. And he also does house hacking. So I thought, oh, that's interesting. So he's just getting started on that. So he's going to expand, and he's interested. And I thought he was, very nice to be willing to spend time to explain how YouTubing works and, how to get to that point of, I'm just trying. Oh, by the way, guys, I always forget to say this in my audience. If you're not following me already, thank you, Spencer. You remind me. Please hit the follow. Is it the follow? subscribe button and hit the like button. I always forget to say that, guys. And I need to get to 1,000. I'm almost near 900. So come on, help me out. Anyways, so that's what I learned about Spencer. All right. And I think then the next person that they talked about was good old Jamil. And, Jamil for me, oh, thank you. Whoever put that up, thank you. That must be my son. Jamil, I thought, had quite a bit to offer. Oh, and I don't have any pictures. Oh, yes, I do. I got a picture of him and me in a funny hat, but not on stage. What can I say? Other than he's a great guy. I like him a lot. And when Jamil was on stage, he was talking about the fact that title companies, we use them, but we don't really use them as much as we can. And he talked about a whole bunch of different ways to creatively get title companies to give you their lists and to put their wholesalers to work for you and to pay for the food and the space for your meetups. I didn't know that they were so willing to do this. And then he made a point of talking about the ways to get legally paid from title companies, because I guess in some states it's not legal to take money from them if you do business with them. I don't know what the story was exactly, but he said you want to make sure you're doing it on the legal way. And I think that's where they pay for the food and the space directly to the person who you're hosting it from. You guys want to help me, get that straight? Who remembers that?
So I think what they were talking about was, getting title companies to sponsor your meetups and be able to, if you do that, then that brings them business, because what do title companies need? They need files, right? They need more properties to work on, more sales to do. So by them partnering with you or other investors or hosting other meetups or events, they're happy to spend the money to do that in order to get renewed business. So I thought that was a great point. And I think most of us probably understood that, but never really paid attention to it. Like, oh yeah, we probably should be doing that more often. Because then we can start building more relationships with more title companies to get them to understand what it is that we do, whether it's cash, creative, seller finance, whatever your realm is. But it starts with that relationship building. And so I felt like that was a really good point and a reminder for all of us to always network, especially with the businesses we need in this industry, which is going to be title companies and closing attorneys. So
right,
it was a really good point.
Yes.
I have a point on that, if I may. Kevin Cho him and I have been chatting a lot lately, and he had mentioned to me that the title company, he's looking for a new space because any day he's getting kicked out of his Upwork, not Upwork, his co-habitating WeWork. There you go. Thank you. So he's going to get kicked out any day, and I told him he should send people out looking for his own commercial space, but that's another conversation. But he did say my title company's willing to do anything anything I want. They'll pay for it. They'll pay for the meetups, because he's bringing in the most files.
Wow. In
Arizona right now for this one title company. So kudos to him. He has them at his beck and call. Prime example.
I imagine you would if you could do that. That's great. He should just open a title company, for Christ's sake. For sure. All right, so we're almost down to our major presenter, but first came Brandon Turner. And I would like for someone to talk about Brandon, but I was a little disappointed in myself, because I very much like him. And, for me, he was like my kind of very first inkling towards a pace. And I didn't go up to him and get a picture or anything.
Carolina did, but
it made me realize that as much as I think I have a pretty good mindset, I'm pretty strong, that I can
talk about it. I really liked, I'm like you, Effie. He was probably my first introduction into real estate. Because because, the first thing you do is you try to surf the internet trying to find anything you can about real estate as free as possible. And I came across Brandon Turner through Bigger Pockets, and I was like, this dude just seems really down to earth, right? Just explains things really well, really simply, and to where it's not as terrifying. Like, okay, how do we do this business? So for me, it was really cool to see him come to this event and be able to see him actually speak to us. And I finally figured out the line, guys, what he said at the beginning. So he opened with this saying, and he comes up and he says, he's going to come up and share the secrets to making millions, getting 10,000 doors, winning the girl of your dreams, saving the world, and getting abs, all part-time. And I was like, okay, that's one way to grab everybody's attention. One of those things is going to make all of us pay attention. But really,
Wait, didn't he also add something about he insinuated that he had done that except for the abs?
Yeah, except for the abs. That was right. Yeah. He goes, the one thing I think I faltered on was getting the abs, he shifted into he's working on or already has $1 billion of real estate. So I was like, dang, okay. So he's since left Bigger Pockets, and now he's off on his own doing his own thing. And so his whole speech was kind of the vision of your life, creating a vision of your life that you would like. And he kind of gamified it, right? He kind of gave you points that you can use in your everyday. And one thing that he brought up that I enjoyed was making a checklist of like the 10 or 15 things that you are non-negotiable about getting done every day. For him, it was reading the Bible to his kids. Gosh, what else was there? There was making sure you talk to everybody on your team kind of thing, have that meeting, go read out of a book for yourself. I mean, there's a lot of different points that he has on his phone, and he just keeps as a screenshot on his phone. Like, did I do this? Did I do this? Did I do that today? And he'll track it every single day on those 10 to 15 things. And he doesn't necessarily beat himself up for not getting all of them, but he'll track it to say, okay, how many did I get today? How many did I get through this week? And what he reviews is what did he commit to last week? What was his score for this week? What did he do well with? And what did he struggle with? And he has that conversation with his team, and everybody gives their number. Everybody talks about their numbers, their struggles, what they did well on. And then everyone goes around the room and does the same thing for each other. So I thought that was pretty powerful and just simple. It doesn't have to be overly complicated. I think we tend to see what everyone else does and try to implement every single thing that maybe Derek or Carolina or Nathan or Effie or Justin all puts in their day and think we have to do that. Really, it should just be the 10 to 15 things that are important to you in your business in this moment. Because there's no way I should be looking at multifamily. There's no way I should be looking at buying businesses right now. I'm still trying to get my feet wet. So what does that look like? What does that look like for me? It's much different than Justin or Carolina or Nathan, Effie, Derek. And so putting those things out on paper, and where he said gamify, he already had me. I'm like, let's make this a competition with yourself. So I really enjoyed his speech, and that was probably the biggest takeaway that I had from it.
Yeah, that was a very good point. I enjoyed that myself. Any other takeaways?
Oh, the last point that I think was the best thing that he could have said to everybody in that room was, you get the results of what you repeatedly do. And I was like, okay. So if you're watching a lot of TV, you're going to get those same results. If you're putting and pushing things off, you're going to continue to do that. So figure out the things that you are repeatedly doing every day that you don't think is making a big impact in your day, but they probably are. And are those the things that you want to make an impact on your day? Or do you need to replace those things? So.
Yeah, habits and accountability, right? For sure. All right. And then, of course, we came to our main speaker, Tim Ballard. And I don't know, has anybody not seen the movie? Because if they haven't seen the movie, they should see it. I found it very interesting. So who would like to start this? I think that we probably all have something to say about, like, what are your thoughts on this man? What are your thoughts on what he brought forward? And we know that there are some other movies coming out and the such, but what was I'd like each person to say something, on what you felt, what you thought about Tim Ballard.
I'll kick it off.
Okay.
So I think one of the things that I learned, you would think that the normal would be a border wall is for, everyone's hyping it up for drugs and everyone's hyping it up for, adults maybe crossing, but it's the children. And we know about the children, but he said like that is the primary focus for the border walls. And for them not to want one is a red flag. And he talked about politics, and we don't have to get into that obviously, and how now 5 or 6 years ago when the movie was made, everyone was all on board with this movie on both sides of the fence. And I mean that politically. And now it's one side, we'll call it the blue side, is now giving him a hard time. And every day it's the new challenge is the political battle that he is facing. And no one knows why. So there was that. And then the last takeaway that I didn't realize, and it blew my mind, it's wartime creates any type of, hurricane to wartime to natural disasters create the demand, or not a demand, but an opportunity for these, low lives to then go prey on children, to go and take them and snatch them from these war-torn countries. So never put those two together. I thought that was something that, again, eye-opening.
Yeah, I'll go next. Yeah, I don't know how to. It was really emotional. That was hard. That was really hard. I was almost in tears in the background. I'm a mom of 3, so just I just can't imagine any child going through all of that. And for a while, and again, not at all political, nothing. But I'm an immigrant, so when all this talk about the wall, after hearing what they talked about at the event, my eyes are open. He painted the picture of, kids just kind of being dropped off with just like a little name, like a little piece of paper with call whoever, and then they call them, hey, so and there's a kid here. Is he yours? They don't even verify if they're, legal parent or guardian. And this person, this stranger, complete stranger, takes this child, and that child is never to be seen again. And that is just so incredibly heartbreaking. It was awful. But yeah, and the other thing that made me really sick to hear was, that this man Tim is trying to make an impact. He's trying to make good and try to help these beautiful children that are in these horrible situations. And the fact that he's getting slandered, he's getting accused of things, and just that they're trying to smear his reputation to try to shut everything down. And that is just absolutely disgusting. So whatever help we can do, spread the word. If you have funds that you can donate to his cause, I don't remember off the top of my head what that was, but whatever we can do. I mean, this is a really, really important thing that needs to be addressed in our world. And that America is the number one buyer for these poor children. I mean, wow, dumbfounded.
Yeah, I could go next just because the combination of bringing family and children to this community camp and then seeing that was so powerful. And actually, I had to leave earlier because one of my kids got hurt. But my oldest, and we were familiar with most of the content anyway, but my oldest got to stay, and he was so impacted. He's talked very differently ever since interacting, well, with everyone at camp, but specifically the main speaker, Tim. And I think in looking over his notes and what he had to say, that was already mentioned, and Carolina said the conviction of that the United States is the consumer. You just got to let that sink in. And then also what Tim is doing is it's the full spectrum of rescue. It's including aftercare. So it's not just stepping in and intervening, but it's remembering that that's a human life that carries that trauma with them, even past the, you know, the rescue, the moment where things have begun to improve. But the aftercare is an important part, and I thought that was amazing. And also how it impacted my own child. His language was that this is a life mission, similar to what was said earlier. This is a mission, not just a talk.
Yep. Do you want to go next, Derek?
Yeah. For those that know me, know I'm very vocal about this topic. I think we had moved to Arizona, and within the first 2 months, my wife witnessed somebody trying to snatch a child out of a shopping cart right in front of the parent.
Whoa.
And so they don't, I mean, they're very brazen. Like they do it in broad daylight, and it's not political. And for them to make it political is really sad, because at the end of the day, it's about protecting the children, saving them from not just the trafficking part. It's what they do, you know, during the time that they are imprisoned. And we won't go into detail, but you know, it's bad. It's really bad. It's physical. It's violent. But now that they, Tim and his group, he's not the only group that can now go and save these children, you know, and rescue these children from the pits of hell. He's got, kind of fits in with the whole collaboration over competition theme for me. Is they're working with a I don't know how many, they didn't say, but a handful of other groups and organizations that are thoroughly vetted, who are in that local area of where, you know, the groups, I mean, obviously they're worldwide, but in certain areas that are quicker to go to these jungles or wherever these children are being hostage, essentially, and working together and sending those groups to rescue the kids. And he doesn't have to do it all himself anymore. So that, for me, gave me more of a reason to want to donate to that fund, because it reaches much further, and it allows teamwork, I guess, if you want to call it that. It allows that to happen. And our funds can now reach further and in more places and rescue more children. And his story, of just the one story that he shared with us, from going to rescue a group of children in Ukraine, which spanned like 4 or 5 different countries, was very touching. And so for me, it hits home pretty hard.
Yeah, I have to agree. There were so many things that were very interesting and surprising. You know, that you know, 5 years ago there was no there were no two sides on this. You know, like everyone was supporting the film when it first came out, and you know, fast forward 5 years forward, and they're politicizing it. You know, that part is really sad, because there's nothing political about a little child being, you know, abused that way and taken from their family and from their life. So that's kind of weird to me, you know, and I just feel like what is going on, you know. So I am glad that they now have more than one group, and they're going to, you know, as they're doing more production, they're taking him off, and you know, like one name, because they're using more, and it's not about him, you know, it's about the kids. But I was surprised, just like Nathan was, that it's during times of natural calamity, catastrophes, and wars that the pedophiles all get on planes and go over, because the countries are falling apart, nobody's looking, and that they're taking them, you know, from orphanages and from the streets, and you know, like at the worst time. You know, it's just and where they go, you know, where they take them. And also, you know, like Derek said, when they went, you know, to one country that's at war, and then they end up following those kids to another country to find out that this whole plan is getting ready to sell kids in that country, and how the different agencies around the world have to work together, even though, yeah, they're all political. It's our country. You can't, don't just come in and, bring your guns. But that this is not political. Like, everybody should want to stop this, and that is so big. And the States is the largest consumer. That blew my mind. And the thing about the war, as a Canadian, when I was in Canada in the last 14 years, anytime some catastrophes would happen, you'd see the different agencies. We have to save the animals. We've got to save the animals. And I'd be donating, like, get the animals off the streets. It's a war. They're not, or, famine has broken out, or, it's a flood. They're not going to be fed. Get them over here. We'll find homes. But no one was thinking about the kids, that their parents have died, or that they're in orphanages and in the government care. And nobody thought, hey, we got to take these kids. Just take them and hug them. Hold on to them. Make sure that they are people who are getting them are being screened. Make sure that they track them. Make sure that they know where they are. I don't know why I never thought that. It's sad, very sad. So I like the fact that he feels like whether people like him or not, he doesn't give a damn. He's gonna shove it down their throats. They're gonna talk about it. I'm like, that's good. That takes a lot of fortitude to sacrifice himself, and not, like all the lies that his kids were being told and stuff like that. I do think that he's a very, very special person. And it's also, like you said, Derek, the collaboration, of working together, making a big difference. And how one man, it was so funny when his wife told him, that you will not be the reason that I don't get to heaven. Go and save those kids. Like, that's hysterical, because I'm not particularly religious, although I do wear my grandma's cross as a touchstone. But, it's kind of funny to me to think that, you could push your husband out to put his life on the line so that your path to heaven might not be interfered with. So to me, I just smile, but I don't care. I don't care what it is that's at the foot of it, like the roots of it. It's got to be done. Those little kids can't speak for themselves, and it's so sad, so very sad. But that's a bit of a downer, isn't it, to talk about? Hey, the community camp was great. We had a great time.
Well, and just to kind of wrap that up a little bit, is that movie made me mad, made me so very angry, because that it's happening, right? Without us seemingly paying attention, right? It made me feel upset that we don't notice this more often, right? And that we're not paying attention to our neighbors and our kids, and watching out for each other, like, in that regard. But also that we have people in this world that do things like that. You know what I mean? And I'm with Derek. I'm pretty outspoken about it, and I have a similar thing where it was a friend of mine who their son just happened to walk away while they're in the grocery store just for a second, and this woman just picked him up and started walking away. I tried to go out of the grocery store, and it wasn't until that moment I realized how simply that could happen, right? How quickly it could happen. I don't know that that's the same scenario, but my thought process goes to, it could be, right? Don't know that person's intention. So when you see something, say something, do something. Don't just let it happen. Even if it may be their parent or their family member, double check, cause a ruckus, make sense, or make noise about it until you're sure. And so when Tim got up and started talking about what he's doing with his foundation, I thought that was incredible, because he's not just bringing one foundation, like Derek was saying, he's bringing all of them together. And by the way, guys, it's called therescuefund.org. So someone could put that in the comments for me so we can pull that up. Go and, if you can, donate what you can. I mean, any little bit will help, because what Tim is doing is pulling several different organizations together and pooling them into one so we can maximize the resources. So, you know, be vigilant, you know, help each other. Go see the movie. It's a great movie, and I hope it sparks some emotion in you, and that you want to get this word out, that this is something we all need to look more towards, and make sure we're holding each other accountable.
That's an ugly URL. Sorry, too long. They needed to give it a shorter.
You can just put the rescuefund.org. It should
Yeah, that's
pop
the
up.
best thing to do. Yeah, but yeah, so that part was very, very impactful. It was very impactful, and I think that it does show that one man, one person, can make a huge, huge, huge difference. So, you know,
Can I say something real quick?
of course.
You had mentioned that it was a downer, right? That conversation. But these are the hard conversations that we have to have about this topic. And the reason why it's so hard is because people don't like hearing it. And so for me, like, it's that tough conversation that I'd like to have. It's hard and it's sad, but unless we talk about it, nobody will ever find out.
I agree with you wholeheartedly, Derek. Wholeheartedly. And it is one of those things that I think that as a culture, we have to get better at. We have to get a lot better at talking about these things that are hard. You know, if we don't, it's going to continue. And this is one of the big reasons that people, you know, that they're giving Tim such a hard time, because nobody wants to look at it. Because, you know, it's so horrific to try to even go to the concept of a little child and a pedophile. I mean, you know, like, I got all these things in my head saying, stop, you know, hit them, you know, get them off, you know, things like that. So it's kind of natural not to want to, but you're right. If we don't talk about it, then it's always swept under the carpet. And, you know, that person walks out of the store or out of the, you know, picks up a child at the border, and who's to know any better, because no one wants to look. And didn't they say that there was a bunch of children that were lost?
85,000.
Yeah, that they lost track of 85,000.
That they lost track of. Yeah.
Coming into the U.S., right?
Yeah, when they were trying to stop the immigration from coming over.
And that's the new bill.
Yeah, that's right. Talk about that a little bit, Justin.
Yeah, other than that, I mean, he touched base. So Mel Gibson, I wanted to also mention that, yeah, Mel Gibson's part of this too, which is pretty great, where some, I guess, force behind it as well. But yeah, I guess that's where Pace went to New Jersey. But I think Tim was also in the Northeast, whether it was Washington or New Jersey for whatever reason. They met with the senators, if I'm mistaken, and they proposed a bill. Maybe it's called the Sound of Freedom Bill or Sound of Freedom Bill. But yeah, they're going to work on rescuing the alleged 85,000 children that are in the U.S. unaccounted for, where I forget who said it, but they're called sponsors. And, you know, they come over the border, they have something in their pocket or some sort of, you know, barcode or identification number on their shirt. All they have to do is make a phone call. The sponsor says, yep. They said they fly them plane, train,
Right.
automobile
Right.
to whatever destination the child is going, or wherever the sponsor is. And from there, that's it. That child is gone to the sponsor.
Yep.
And so this is to track those children down.
Yes. How amazing is it that our tax dollars was paying for that?
How about, well, I don't want to go political, but DSS, you can't even see your own children if someone alleges something on you, but you can just go pick up, you can be a sponsor for any type of child.
Right, because they're a different color and nobody cares, or something of that sort.
Whatever that may be. Yeah.
It's so dead wrong. Dead
Down
wrong.
on this one.
Yeah.
But it was $500 to $550,000, guys, that was raised. And the other cool thing, let's go positive now, right? We took a little dip, but it has to be said. The positive I can see is, yes, the money that was raised. And one of the coolest things that I heard from Jerry's brother, who said, I've been in all these fundraisers. There's celebrities in in a lot of those fundraisers where it's about 300 people, just like yourselves. And he says they raise about that crowd, the same crowd with celebrities would raise about $500,000. So a bunch of, you know, all walks of life, just community of us raised that with Pace, you know, doing half of it.
Yeah.
Should speak volume on how this community operates.
I agree. And I think it's only going to get better. That's for darn sure. You know, so that's, I can't even really begin to imagine where we're going to be in another 2 years, 3 years. We know we're going to be at least, you know, 50, 60, maybe 100,000. That's crazy. But anyhow, we're moving on. We did raise over 500,000, which is really awesome. And then on day 4, they had this thing called the social media challenge. And did anybody do it? I don't think any of us did it. Not one of us did it. So that's hysterical.
I sort of did it. I mean, I went and I did my testimonial. That's the one thing I wanted to make sure that I did for Pace and the community, and especially for Jerry and everyone that hosted us. I think that was important. My intention was that we were going to go to Glacier and do the challenge, but we did go to Glacier, but we forgot to do the whole video with our group and just enjoyed hanging out. I think that was the thing. We just had fun enjoying each other's company. And really, I think that was the main point, was just hanging out with each other, getting to know each other, spending time together with other than just talking about business, but getting to know each other. And what better place to do that in freaking Montana in a glacier? So,
yeah, it was beautiful. It was just absolutely beautiful. I wasn't sure what we were supposed to do when we get up there though. So I ended up going the next day and just kind of doing other things. But I said thank you and all, but I also wanted to watch the, Closers Olympics. So that wasn't involved with the community camp, but they have this event where it's called the Closers Olympics every year, and this is the 3rd year, where they do it live and they throw numbers at, you know, a telephone number and names to whoever it is that's competing, and they have a half hour to try to close as many deals as they can. And I'm like, dang, that's like, you know, not quite like Nightly Dial. I mean, you know, there you're not stressed on time. You're not expected to close it. You're just expected to bring it close to a closing to give to a closer the next day. I'm like, how does that work? I've been watching them, and it's been pretty amazing. And I was rooting for our Munif because I thought he was pretty awesome. But out of all of them, he was the least aggressive. Did anybody else besides me watch it? Because I know that there was so much going on then.
No, I didn't.
Yeah. Well, you guys know Munif, right? And he's so chill, and he's got the baby on his stomach, you know, and he's also, but he's got a wicked sense of humor, and he's very smart. And Jerry was one of the judges, but he was criticized a little bit for being, not by Jerry, but some of them, for being not pushing enough. Not, you know, they could have got a couple more minutes in if he pushed there. But he came in on silver. So shout out to Munif and for not having to push as hard, because JB Bates, that guy scares me. Yeah, he scares me. Just to look at him scares me. But anyhow, I don't know how, you know, I think he's like, give me your house or else. And you're like, which one? Here, take them all. It's kind of funny. But then we were off. You know, I didn't think about staying an extra day past, but, you know, as we know, Pace always over delivers. And not only did he bring in, you know, like some people go in early and get, you know, helped in regards to how to be a camp counselor, so to speak, but I heard I'm on the plane and I hear, no, I'm not going back. Rhea says, no, I'm not in Chicago yet. I'm doing an interview at Jerry Norton's. I'm like, what the fuck? What? Oh, sorry, did I say that? I mean, like, what the heck? And then, like, are you using his place, or is he there? Or what? Did you buy this? What happened? And that's when I started to uncover that there was even more, and that they did have some interviews at Jerry Norton's home. Pace, you know, was doing some interviewing there. and they interviewed Uncle Lanza, Dan Kiono, Rhea Campbell, and our own Carolina. So tell us about Carolina.
Oh my gosh. So, it was a total surprise to me. So I honestly, so Saturday morning, my my group that I was bunking with, I was in an Airbnb. We were supposed to, because we had limited cars. It's being such a small town, right? So we were supposed to have two cars. The day we got to the event on Wednesday, one of the people that was going to have a car canceled on us, so we were down to one car for us four ladies that were in that Airbnb. Our final car left Saturday, so I'm kind of, because again, introvert. And let me tell you, this is only my second time flying solo by myself to anything. My husband usually is with me. So I am kind of like panicking. I'm in the middle of, a very small town. I'm trying to figure out how the heck I'm going to get to the airport in time for my 5:30 on Sunday. So Saturday morning, I'm praying. I'm like, please, and whatever. I'm spiritual, so I'm like talking to the big guy. I'm like, please watch over me. Let me find a way, give me some peace, so I don't overthink and freak out internally here. And so I get a phone call, and actually I was kind of excited to have a little bit of downtime though, because I was really, my battery was drained, and being an introvert, you kind of need that downtime to recharge. So Saturday, I want to say it was like noon or 1 o'clock, I get a phone call from Perla, who was staying with me, and she was at the airport with Ria, and Ria had gotten a text saying from Pace saying, come over at 5 o'clock. And she was getting ready to board on the plane and ended up canceling or switching over her reservation. And Perla told her, hey, Carolina's got a completely open Airbnb. You can spend the night there. And of course, like, we're a Go Giver community. I didn't even think twice. I'm like, yeah, come stay over. Like, I don't care. I didn't know anything about the interview. And then she says, oh, and side note, I'm bringing you to Jerry's house tonight. And I'm like, wait, what? I'm like, what are you talking about? And so she goes, oh yeah, I just, I was told to come, and I said, I'm only coming if you're coming. And then, my heart, I never want to be disrespectful or rude, remembering what we had to record at the beginning of the event.
Oh,
Hey,
yeah.
don't ask Pace for things. He's such a go giver. He always says yes to everything. I don't want to be rude. It's not my house. I wasn't invited. So I did text Pace. I go, Pace, there is no hard feelings whatsoever. I love and respect you always. I go, I'm not coming unless I have the seal of approval from you, because I wasn't invited. This is Ria. She can do her thing.
He's doing it.
Um, and so of course Pace is just a sweetheart, and he let me come. So I'm like, awesome, we're just gonna have a chat. Well, of course he's got like the whole studio all set up and everything, and I'm like, okay, cool. And then when we get there, Ria's like, oh yeah, I'm getting interviewed. I'm like, oh cool. So I'll just sit in the corner over here and just watch what you're doing. I'm gonna be a wallflower, because I'm still kind of like trying to process everything of the weekend. And then, of course, Pace, he's like, and you're going to be after Dan Q. And I'm like, what? Like, what did you just say? So then, of course, I'm starting to get like, I don't like the camera. Like, I really, I don't want to be, I do not enjoy, even this right now is like killing me a little bit. So, so yeah, so then and then he goes, oh, and by the way, figure out a topic, and we need to figure out a thumbnail. So you got 30 minutes, figure it out. And I'm just like, but I'm an overthinker. I need a little more time to plan. So I start typing like various things. And I'm like, Pace, I'm like freaking out. I'm really trying to keep my stuff together and be professional here, but I'm freaking out. He's like, why? You've talked to me before. I'm like, but not for like half an hour straight. I'm like, so I'm like, yeah, over Zooms, but not live and in front of people with recording gear in front of me. So yeah, I again, being uncomfortable, I pushed through, I did it. So it was a moment for me, and I get another birthday.
Yay.
Good job.
Hey.
And I had a car ride for the airport, so it all won.
See how God said that, or
I
that
know.
happened,
It
right?
all worked out. I didn't have some weirdo like Uber driver that may not have shown up the next day. So Ria was amazing, and she took me bright and early. So yeah.
Nice. That's
Wait,
awesome.
way to play full out, right?
That's
Good grief.
awesome.
Yeah,
Really,
crazy.
really. When do we get to see it?
I honestly don't know, because I had stuff in there. I'm like, I can't talk about that right at this moment. He's like, oh, okay, well, it'll be coming out in like 4 months. I'm like, okay, cool. 4 months is good. That should all be like settled by then. So
Yeah, right. Like you don't want to give the address because you know somebody's going to go there.
yeah, something's gonna happen. So yeah, yeah. But I did talk a little bit about again, uncomfortable, but my podcast that will be coming out because I want to do like lessons behind the scenes and what we learn, not just the sexy stuff about real estate with all the HUDs and checks that we all love, but I want to talk about life lessons and things that we do to improve. And yeah, so
Cool.
y'all are welcome.
Cool. Hey, I'm going to be collecting snake stories for my
I love
snake hunter friend.
snake hunters. Ooh, I love that. That could be its own show. My gosh.
Yeah, that should be the title. That's cool. That's very cool. Well, guys, we've definitely stayed longer than my normal show by twice, but I did have. I guess that's not bad because we have 3 times more people, a lot more. So I want to say thank you very, very much for coming, guys. If you get, when the time comes for next year, do get in there, and it was very, very, very worthwhile. I think it affected everyone's life.
Yeah.
So it was a great thing to be part of, and thank you, everyone here, and thank you for joining us, guys. I'm going to say goodbye till next week. All right, take care.